Hey guys, we're gonna read chapter 7 in The Bridge Home. All right, here we go. Lost Puppy. Dusk was beginning to fall as we wandered out into the narrow street. My courage fell, too, with every step. Fingering what was left of our money, I wondered how long it would last us. I regretted being too proud to share our story with Tea Shop Auntie. I should have asked her for help with finding a safe place to stay. Find Mariachi, you demanded. She's gone, I said. You threw her at the bad man, remember? Mariachi, you repeated louder. You saved me, Ruku. You were a hero. Mariachi, you yelled. You have better things to worry about than your doll, I burst out. Amma, you turned your back to me. Amma. She's not here either. We just have each other now. You plopped down right there on the dusty street. Fine. Sit. Ruku wants Amma. Ruku wants Mariachi. Shouting's not going to bring them here. You scowled at me. Scowl does like make a face like. And I spun on my heel and strode away, hoping you'd follow, but you didn't. I waited at the end of the street for a while, but you seemed content, meaning like satisfied, to stay where you were. You won that round. When I came back for you, you were bending over a skinny puppy with huge dark eyes. Get away from that puppy, Ruku. It might bite. At the sound of my voice, the puppy thumped its tail. You stroked it tenderly with just one finger. Come on, please, I said. You started humming to the puppy. It licked you with its pink tongue. I'm really sorry, Ruku. You made no move to show me you'd heard, even though you usually forgave me when I sounded apologetic. I crouched beside you. The puppy looked right at me, and his nose crinkled like he was smiling. I couldn't help petting him. His coat was smooth. He wiggled his and sniffed my hand. Ruku's dog, I sighed. We don't have enough to eat or a proper place to sleep yet, and you want to adopt this orphan? Cutie, you announced, tapping his head. Cutie. Cutie? That's what we're calling him? I knew there was no point trying to get you to leave the puppy behind, and you didn't want to leave Cutie behind either. I knew there was no point trying to get you to leave the puppy behind, and I didn't want to leave Cutie behind either, because he'd smiled at me and because he made you so happy. Your eyes were as shiny as the puppy's wet nose. That's a simile, comparing her eyes to the puppy's nose, saying they're both shiny. Okay, I said, but now we need to find a place to sleep. Come. You stood and beckoned the puppy. Beckoned is like, come on, come with me. Come, Cutie. Cutie pricked up his ears and stood attentively at your side, like he understood you perfectly. I have no idea where to go, I admitted. You choose. You broke into the widest grin I'd ever seen and started marching down the street, realizing with a twinge of guilt that I'd never let you lead before. I followed. On one street corner, 3 boys had settled in for the night, huddled together on a tattered straw mat behind a dumpster. We saw another group of kids still at work, trying to sell newspapers to people who were stopped in their cars at a traffic light. Felt good to have Cutie trotting close to our heels along the dark streets. He was probably too small to scare away strangers, but surely he'd bark in warning if someone tried to sneak up on us when we went to sleep. If we ever found a place to sleep. We walked beneath a huge billboard, the larger-than-life picture of a woman decked in gold jewelry, not just bangles and necklaces and earrings and nose rings, but even gold hair clips. Pretty, you said, pausing beneath it. Pretty. Gold at super low prices at Thang Nam House, the billboard proclaimed, though the price for the necklace it advertised was a number followed by more zeros than I cared to count. What comes after the 10,000s, Ruku? 11, you said promptly. 10, 11. Right, I smiled. After 10 is 11, and we'll never have tens of thousands of rupees, so who cares what comes next? We wandered onto a wider road that led to a river. Two bridges spanned it. One was well lit with traffic rumbling across it, and the other was dark and deserted. We headed to the deserted bridge. Concrete lions stood on either side of what must have once been the grand entrance, and a crumbling concrete wall ran along its sides. The perfect spot to stay overnight, I decided. Probably the most secluded spot we could get in the city. Secluded means like away from everything else, kind of like private. Careful, I warned as we picked our way around the holes in the ruined bridge. Pretty, you pointed at the river that glittered like crushed glass far below us, another simile. Halfway across the bridge, I saw a makeshift shelter. That means like somebody like threw it together, they put it together, makeshift. Someone had made a tent with a tarpaulin. Rocks held one edge of the tarpaulin in place along the wall of the bridge. The tent sloped down to the ground, where its other edge was held down with an old car tire. A cleverly built home with one wall, a sloping roof, and two entrances. Looks like it was abandoned years ago, I said. Want to stay here? Ruku wants to eat. You gobble the bananas, and Cutie and I finished the vadis. Our food was gone before I realized I should have saved something for the next day. It was beginning to get dark, but I could make out a boy marching up the bridge. He reminded me of a sunflower. Matted hair that looked like it had never met a comb stuck out like petals around his face that seemed much too large for his skinny body. He wore an oversized yellow t-shirt and a raggedy pair of shorts and held a bag and a wooden stick. Vanakkam, I greeted him, relieved that he was smaller than us. Go away, he said, instead of echoing Vanakkam in return. You're polite, aren't you? I said. If you stay here, my boss will come and he punched the air. Tashum, he'll show you. Tashum, you imitated him, repeating his nonsense word. Tashum. He smiled at you. Then he turned to me and said in a tone he seemed to think was impressive, my boss is coming with the rest of our gang. Your gang? I peered into the gloom. No one else as far as I could see. 20 boys, all 10 times taller than me. You're a bad liar, I said. Owa! You pointed at a scab on his knee. Don't worry, he said to you. And he sat down cross-legged, pulling his t-shirt over his saggy knees. It doesn't hurt anymore. Kutu sniffed at the boy and licked him. My name's Muthu, he said. What's your dog called? Ruku's dog, you said with pride. You sat right next to Muthu as though he'd invited us to sit. Cutie. He patted Cutie tentatively. Then he glanced behind us. Look at this. Look, that's my boss. Tentatively is like for the moment. All right, well, let's see if Muthu is telling the truth, if somebody is going to be coming, and we'll see what happens next. All right, see you for chapter 8.